Hello everyone and welcome back to another edition of Indie Book Review, where today I am reviewing Speed Bump by Barbara Avon. So, Speed Bump is it's a small book, and let's get into it. So, plot. Basically, it's about this guy Tony. He had a delivery to make. He had to pick it up in Winnipeg, I believe, and then deliver it down to Ottawa, where he also lives. And to top things off, it's Christmas. It's Christmas Eve. He wants to get home. So he's got to get home. So he's got to get back to Ottawa to drop this shit off and then go home. Well, this book is pretty much everything that could possibly go wrong going wrong for Tony. He is just completely shit out of luck with every instance throughout this book. And holy fuck does it go wrong, and holy fuck does it get creepy and weird. I'm obviously trying to not spoil anything, so. For the most part, it's a pretty simple plot. It's very direct, it's very straight to the point, and that's really all this story really needed, is just a very direct, simple, straight to the point sort of plot. So, 5 out of 5. What can I say? Characters. The characters are all really unique and all really interesting. You know, you got Tony, you got Milton, you got Lisa, and you got Stacy. Stacy? Stephanie? Stacy, yeah, Stacy. I finished the goddamn book yesterday, and I'm bad with names. Let's just go with that. I'm bad with names. But anyway, all the characters are all very unique in their own ways, and they're all very well written. The only real problem I have is, at the beginning, Tony kind of comes off as a little unlikable. You know, as the book continued, you kind of understand his frustration and his continually growing grumpiness with everything. You can kind of feel for him, but at the beginning, he's kind of still grumpy. I get it, it's Christmas Eve, you kind of want to get home. But it does kind of also state that he had a little bit of a choice in this, too. It wasn't much of a choice, and it probably could have had some not-so-nice consequences. But, you know, he still had that choice, so he lost a little bit of my sympathy for some of the predicament, especially in terms of the natural process of the predicament itself. So, yeah, he's a bit of a grump at the beginning, too, and I don't much care for that. His interactions with Lisa in flashbacks are very nice, and he does come off as this really, really nice person. And, you know, he's just kind of in this real shit situation that just keeps on building and building and building. Trust me, the name Speed Bump is definitely very apt. Not in a literal sense, but in a very metaphorical sense. But because it took me a while to actually really like Tony, I'm going to give character 4 stars. Like I said, they're all very well written. Just, it took me a little bit to like Tony. Research and imagination. Definitely some research being done, but this book kills it with imagination. Just phenomenal imagination brought into things, and the creepiness to it. So I'm not the sort of person who typically likes horror, mostly because it bores me. A lot of the time, you can definitely tell what an author is trying to do with their horror, and it doesn't really work. With this one, I never knew what direction the horror was going to go. Like, sometimes I could tell, like, you know, especially near the end, I kind of knew where things were turning, but, like, there's this scene where he goes into a farm because he needs fuel, and, it creeped me out. It straight up creeped me out, and for good reason. Read the book, you'll find out why. But, yeah, research and imagination, straight up 5 out of 5. I got no problem with it. Writing. The writing is very simple and well-paced. You know, how I kind of like my books. Oh. The only real drawback is I did have a little bit of a difficulty getting into the story. Especially at the very beginning. It was a little difficult getting into it. Some of it was because Tony's character was a little more unlikable than I would have liked. But some of it is also the story, because it does have a bit of a slower start to it. I'm waiting for the horror to begin, and maybe it's just my personal impatience, but it didn't feel like a horror story until a little later on. And, with the tagline on the book, Jingle All the Way to Hell, I kind of thought it'd be a little sooner, but honestly, once it started, holy fuck did it start, and holy fuck did it keep going. So it was definitely worth the wait. It just took me a bit to get into it. So writing, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. It was very well written, very well paced, and despite me having a little bit of trouble at the beginning, it did pay off. And ending. This is where I start getting into spoilers. If you don't want the book spoiled for you, I will have already posted a time to go to where you need to go, and yeah. So the ending. Tony takes a cab. He drops the stuff off. He drops his truck and trailer off at the antique shop. Nobody's there. Somebody does kind of show up, but it's kind of a shit show. Like nobody actually comes to pick the stuff up, so he just grabs a cab and decides, fuck this, I'm going home. He gets the cab. The cabbie's a complete weirdo and drops him off. Yeah, the cabbie turns out to be a cannibal. It's weird. It's creepy. I don't much care for that. Like I said before, the horror is very, very well done. But yeah, so he gets home. Lisa is incredibly surprised to see him, and she tells him it's time for him to go. And he's confused. He doesn't know what's going on. The reader by now has put it together. They know what's going on. They understand what's going on. The book hasn't straight up said anything yet. It does. It's straight up, like in the next chapter, it does straight up say that this guy died in a hit and run that happened actually at the very beginning when you thought the truck missed him. And honestly, I kind of forgot about that scene. I knew it happened like when I read it, but I kind of forgot about it and had to go back and go, holy shit, like this actually happened like right at the very beginning of this. So kudos to Barbara Avon for not only having probably one of the most relevant scenes that just kind of happens and then it's in the back of your mind because of all the shit that goes on throughout the book. And it's not, like I said, it's not a big book. So to have such a small scene play such a big difference in, despite it being such a small book, and I'm not putting my words together correctly. Wow. Basically what it boils down to is it's a very, very, very well done ending. The only part that I really don't get, and maybe she can explain it to me after all this and all that, is the last chapter, because it seems like he's back at this hotel, and he's really confused as to what's going on. He's got, Tony's got half his head missing or something to that effect, and I don't really understand what was going on there. Like, I think he was trying to, like, I think he was accepting that he was dead and just going into his sort of afterlife, I think. I don't know that. I might have to go back and get back in and read that last chapter again to really understand it. But I mean, all in all, the ending is very, very well done. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 just because of that last chapter and not really fully understanding what was going on. But for the most part, that ending is really good. It's very, very well done, and well, it definitely isn't surprising in any shape, way, or form. You definitely don't figure it out until the book lets you figure it out. You figure it out before the book tells you, but it doesn't let you figure it out until then. And I hope to help that made sense in any shape, way, or form. But yeah, all in all, I'm going to give the ending a 4 out of 5. It was very well done. I very, very much liked it. And all in all, this gives the book an 8 out of 10. It's definitely a very admirable and certainly an enjoyable read. It's an admirable score with an enjoyable read. That's what I'm trying to say. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so if you haven't read this yet, pick up your copy. It's definitely worth the read. And yeah, have a good one, everyone.